Good morning. Welcome to First Verse with Steve and Marissa.
And we are getting into Numbers chapter 9, which is titled The Passover.
Second Passover.
Yep.
Okay.
I've got a note on verse 2 saying that this is the second Passover. The first one was in Egypt and recorded in Exodus 12, which we've already read. Look at us.
Look at us being so...
Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread were 8-day religious observances commemorating their escape from slavery in Egypt by God's power. All right, chapter 9, verse 1. The Lord spoke to Moses in the desert of Sinai in the first month of the second year after they came out of Egypt. He said, "Have the Israelites celebrate the Passover at the appointed time. Celebrate it at the appointed time at twilight on the 14th day of this month, in accordance with all its rules and regulations." So Moses told the Israelites to celebrate the Passover, and they did so in the desert of Sinai at twilight on the 14th day of the first month. The Israelites did everything just as the Lord commanded Moses. But, there's a but. But some of them could not celebrate the Passover on that day because they were ceremonially unclean on account of a dead body. What? So they came to Moses and Aaron that same day and said to Moses, "We have become unclean because of a dead body, but why should we be kept from presenting the Lord's offering with the other Israelites at the appointed time?" Now I'm really curious, did they kill someone or did someone in their family die and they touched their body? What's going on here?
Oh.
Verse 8, Moses answered them, "Wait until I find out what the Lord commands concerning you." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, when any of you or your descendants are unclean because of a dead body or are away on a journey, they may still celebrate the Lord's Passover. They are to celebrate it on the 14th day of the second month at twilight. They are to eat the lamb together with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They must not leave any of it till morning or break any of its bones. I don't remember that part whenever we studied Passover the last time. That they couldn't break its bones.
I don't remember that part either.
When they celebrate the Passover, they must follow all the regulations, but if a man who is ceremonially clean and not on a journey fails to celebrate this Passover, that person must be cut off from his people because he did not present the Lord's offering at the appointed time. That man will bear the consequences of his sin. An alien living among you who wants to celebrate the Lord's Passover must do so in accordance with its rules and regulations. You must have the same regulations for the alien and the native born.
So, what we have here is some people that want us, or that need to celebrate Passover, but they, by a technicality, cannot.
And then alien is meaning people who aren't Jewish.
Yes.
People who aren't Israelites. It's not the aliens everyone's freaking out about, which we all know are demons. I'm going to read the rest of it and then let you go into the deep dive with the notes.
Okay.
Mine does have quite a few notes.
All right.
The next part of Numbers is titled Receiving Guidance for the Journey. Part 4, the cloud above the tabernacle. Verse 15, on the day that tabernacle, the tent of testimony, was set up, the cloud covered it. From evening till morning, the cloud above the tabernacle looked like fire. That is how it continued to be. The cloud covered it, and at night it looked like fire. Whenever the cloud lifted from above the tent, the Israelites set out. Whenever the cloud settled, the Israelites encamped. At the Lord's command, the Israelites set out, and at his command they encamped. As long as the cloud stayed over the tabernacle, they remained in the camp. When the cloud remained over the tabernacle for a long time, the Israelites obeyed the Lord's order and did not set out. Sometimes the cloud was over the tabernacle only a few days at the Lord's command. They would encamp, then at his command they would set out. Sometimes the cloud stayed only from evening till morning, and when it lifted in the morning, they set out, whether by day or by night. Whenever the cloud lifted, they set out. Whether the cloud stayed over the tabernacle for 2 days, or a month, or a year, the Israelites would remain in the camp and not set out, but when it lifted, they would set out. At the Lord's command, they encamped, and at the Lord's command, they set out. They obeyed the Lord's order in accordance with his command through Moses.
Yeah.
That's a lot of encamped and set out. Oh, man.
So it's really interesting what all this is so it's really broken into two parts. We got the second Passover, which is their official, I guess, anniversary of being led out of Egypt. So we're to assume that this has happened, or they have been in the wilderness for at least 1 year by now. And it, whoops, there we go. You can probably hear me a lot better now. They've been in the wilderness for about a year, and not a lot has happened on the timeline or on the docket. There was the crossing of the Red Sea, which was great, but that marked more or less the beginning of it. And then wandering in the wilderness, Moses going up and down Mount Sinai, staying up there multiple times for 40 days, and coming back down with some new information. So the second Passover is really just them instituting what, or the importance of remembering what the Lord has done. That's really why we have these feast days altogether, is to remind people what God has done. How many times have we forgot what God has done? How many times have God just done an amazing thing and you kind of forget about it the next day? Or if you don't forget about it, you just write it off. So the Passover is Israel's way of remembering what the Lord has done. So there are, anyway, the first half, when we're talking about it, there are a few guys who cannot celebrate in the Passover because they are ritually unclean. They don't know why they were touching a dead body, most likely transporting it from someone's tent to a burial site, but that makes them ceremonially or ritually unclean. We have to remember that that blood is what cleanses them, and also bad blood is what defiles them. So let's see. So those who messed with a dead body could not celebrate in Passover, which was, by the way, Passover is meant to be celebrated. Those who don't celebrate in Passover are put out to, or are pretty much exiled because they refuse, or deliberately refusing to celebrate Passover when clean and available carried severe consequences, like being cut off from the community. And if you're cut off from the community, it's really hard to survive. So there is a grace provision for those who were unable to celebrate in Passover. In the second part, we talked about, or Marissa talked about how verse 15 to 23, it was the cloud and fire. So basically, it was God's visible presence over his tabernacle. In the daytime, there was a pillar, or there was a cloud hanging over it, so they weren't scorched by the sun. It would provide both rest and relaxation, because there's not a lot of shade or natural shade provided out there. And the benefit of having natural shade is when the wind blows, it feels much cooler, versus when you're in a tent and you've got a lot of hot air in the tent, or warm air in the tent. And even if the wind were to blow in there. It might feel nice, but it'll circulate the warm air, and it just doesn't feel as nice. So the benefit of God's presence being over them is they benefited from the cool of the air. And at night, over the tabernacle, especially here, there was a pillar of fire. So not only could they see, but they were protected. It was God's presence at all times. And I honestly believe that is what we have now. We just can't see it. The pillar of fire never technically left the people. It was undetectable by their eye gates, but I guarantee you, God shows up as a fiery presence, as a bold presence anytime we call on Him. Hallelujah. There's no really other notes that really stand out. Not anything that's been said before. Love you. Nothing you do about it, and we'll catch you next time.